Is this worse for the children? I've been with my current boyfriend for just over 2 years now. He was previously in a 27-year relationship with a woman who was, by every meaningful measure, emotionally abusive, manipulative, and narcissistic. Over nearly 3 decades, she conditioned him to never question her. Not her decisions, not her behavior, not her lies. He was taught to accept everything she said as absolute truth, and even now, long after they've separated, at least physically, he still responds to her like he's under her control. What makes it so maddening is that she has a documented history of lying. She's been caught in multiple falsehoods, blatant, provable lies, and still, my boyfriend falls for it every time. It's like he's incapable of standing up to her or challenging anything she says. At this point, I'm beginning to lose respect for him. What was once seen as trauma-based compliance now looks more like laziness, an unwillingness to confront anything difficult or take meaningful action. He avoids conflict, avoids effort, and lets the people around him, including his children, suffer for it. And when I say suffer, I mean it. This woman, his ex, pulled the older kids out of school when they were still very young. She claimed she was going to homeschool them, and maybe for a few months, she did. But then she simply stopped. The younger children, now 11 and 16, have never set foot in a school. Not once. Their entire lives revolve around video games, TV, and doing absolutely nothing of educational value unless they happen to be at our house. She's failed them. Plain and simple. When my boyfriend and I got together, I made it clear that this was educational neglect, and that if they didn't fix the situation, they could both face serious consequences, legal and otherwise. It took over a year of my pushing, pleading, and educating before he finally got the 2 youngest enrolled in an online school. That was a tiny win, but only when the kids are at our house do they get any structure. We make sure they're doing the work. We check in. We help. But at her house? She'll maybe ask if they did their assignments but never checks. There's no oversight. No accountability. Now, she's making excuses again, claiming the kids will be switching to a different online school that can't start until September because of some paperwork issue. She says she submitted forms back in April or May. I don't believe she submitted a damn thing. It's just another lie in a long list of lies. And while all of this is happening, she's living with her 4 sons in a tiny, run-down 2-bedroom apartment under 800 square feet. That includes the 2 youngest, 11 and 16, and the older boys, 18 and 21. Then, because this isn't enough chaos, she let a homeless man and his teenage son move in as well. That's 8 people in this cramped space, and she works full-time earning around $30 an hour, which is well above the local average. So where is the money going? Certainly not to the children. Their father, my boyfriend, is the one who buys their clothes, their shoes, everything. She has no rules in place, no bedtimes, no structure. The kids stay up all night, sleep all day, never clean up after themselves, and essentially raise each other while she's either at work or glued to her phone flirting with random people online. The older ones are burdened with caring for the younger ones because she simply doesn't. Meanwhile, our home is the complete opposite. It's clean. It's structured. There are routines, rules, and consistency. We invest in their education, we make sure they're engaged, and we try to give them a sense of normalcy. But of course, they prefer her house. Because what kid wouldn't want to live somewhere they can do whatever they want with no rules, no expectations, and no responsibilities? They split their time, 2 weeks with us, 2 weeks with her. And every time they come back from her house, we're essentially starting from scratch, reintroducing basic manners, structure, expectations. It's like living in 2 different universes. To make things worse, she despises me and openly badmouths me to the kids. That poisons their view of our home and of me, making everything harder. They're torn, confused, manipulated. And here's the gut-wrenching part. If I were to call Child Protective Services, I know the children would finally get the help they need. They'd be forced into real schooling. She'd have to step up and actually parent. It would be a catalyst for change. But if my boyfriend ever found out I was the one who made the call, our relationship would be over. No discussion. No reconciliation. Just done. And the worst part? I think I might be okay with that. Because I'm furious. Not just angry. Deeply, morally, emotionally outraged. These kids are being robbed of the chance to grow into functioning, capable adults. They don't know what boundaries are. They don't understand responsibility. They have zero preparation for the real world. And when they finally leave home, or get forced out, life is going to hit them like a truck. And it will traumatize them. But they don't know any different. This dysfunctional chaos is the only life they've ever known. And my boyfriend? He doesn't want to face any of it. He doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to challenge her. He doesn't want to rock the boat. He just wants to throw money at the problem and hope it disappears. I think he's lazy. I think he's afraid. I think he's so used to being controlled by her that he's completely lost the ability, or the will, to stand up for what's right. Oh, and let's not forget, they're still legally married. That's a whole different mess I'm not even going to unpack right now. Here's the bottom line. I know I should leave him. I probably should have left a long time ago. But right now, I'm stuck on the question of what I can, or should, do for these kids. Do I report their mother, knowing it could destroy my relationship? Or do I stay quiet and watch them suffer, knowing I could have done something but chose not to? Because I'm sick and tired of this woman getting away with neglecting her children. I'm sick of the lies, the manipulation, the disrespect, and the utter lack of accountability. These kids didn't ask for this life. They didn't ask to be born into dysfunction. They deserve better. And I'm at the breaking point trying to figure out how to give it to them, without completely destroying my own life in the process. Am I wrong for yelling at a girl for constantly correcting my Chinese? Hi everyone, I wanted to share a situation that's been causing a lot of stress and confusion for me recently. I'm still trying to process everything that happened, and I guess I'm looking for perspective. Was I wrong for how I handled things? Here's the full story, including a recent update. I was born and raised in the UK. My parents are Chinese immigrants, and while their English is limited, they made sure I grew up learning Chinese so we could communicate at home. I'd say my spoken Chinese is pretty fluent. I can hold conversations and understand others quite well. Sure, I occasionally make small grammar or vocabulary mistakes, especially when talking about more complicated topics, but most Chinese people I meet are usually surprised by how well I speak, especially since I was raised outside of China. One thing I never learned, though, was how to read or write Chinese. My exposure was mostly conversational, and that's where my strengths lie. I never formally studied the language, so reading and writing were never really part of the package for me. It's something I'd like to work on in the future, but for now, I manage pretty well in everyday conversations. Recently, my mum invited an old friend from China to visit and stay at our house for a few weeks. Along with her came her 19-year-old daughter. I didn't know them very well before this visit, but from the beginning, I got the sense that we weren't going to get along. Still, I tried to be polite and accommodating. Since my mum's friend and her daughter were more comfortable in Chinese, I continued speaking Chinese around them. I even helped translate things and explain how things work in the UK. I tried to be welcoming. But from the very beginning, the daughter kept mocking the way I spoke. Every time I made even the slightest mistake in Chinese, mispronouncing a word or using the wrong term, she would laugh out loud. Not just a little laugh, but full-on giggling, pointing it out, and sometimes even calling her mum over to repeat what I said so they could laugh together. I was shocked at first, then embarrassed. I tried brushing it off a few times, but it kept happening. Eventually, I spoke to my parents about it, thinking they would understand and maybe talk to her. Instead, they said that technically I did make mistakes, so she wasn't wrong to point them out. That made me feel unsupported. I said I wanted to talk to her myself and ask her to stop, but my parents told me not to. They said it would be rude to confront her, especially since she was a guest, and that she was just a kid. Keep in mind, she's 19. She's legally an adult, even if she acts younger. Over the next few days, things escalated. The girl followed me around a lot since we're close in age. I couldn't have a normal conversation with her without her mocking my Chinese. Even when the mistakes were incredibly minor, like slipping up on a pronunciation, she would stop everything, loudly correct me, and make a big show out of it. It wasn't helpful or supportive. It felt condescending. She wasn't correcting me kindly. She was yelling the correct words at me, like she was a teacher and I was a dumb student. She made it clear she thought it was hilarious that I couldn't read or write Chinese, and she didn't hold back on making fun of me for it. The worst part? I was told to tolerate it. My parents constantly reminded me that she was our guest, that she might cry if I was mean to her, and that it would be disrespectful to confront her. It felt like I had no support at all, and that my feelings didn't matter. I felt trapped. I was trying to be respectful, but I was also being disrespected every single day. One day, I mispronounced a word during a conversation, and once again, she loudly corrected me, laughing as if I'd said something ridiculous. That was it. I snapped. I yelled at her. I told her that of course my Chinese wasn't perfect. I was born and raised in the UK. I reminded her that she knew that, and yet she kept mocking me. I told her it was incredibly rude and disrespectful to behave that way. She tried to defend herself, saying she was only trying to help me improve. But I shut that down immediately. I told her that yelling corrections and laughing at people is not how you help someone. She started crying and ran to her mother. My parents were furious with me for making a scene. They said I embarrassed them, and that I should apologize. I felt horrible, but also incredibly frustrated. I didn't yell for no reason. This had been building up for days. I didn't start this, and I certainly didn't escalate it unnecessarily. I just stood up for myself. My brother, who doesn't live with us, was the only one who sided with me. He said she had it coming, and that I'd been more than patient. Still, the atmosphere in the house became cold and awkward. No one was really talking to me. I felt isolated and started questioning whether I'd overreacted. Honestly, I don't mind being corrected when I make a mistake, if it's done kindly. Most people I know either gently correct me or ignore the mistake if it doesn't really interfere with the conversation. But this girl made it her mission to humiliate me every chance she got. Despite everything, I started feeling a bit guilty about yelling at her, especially since she cried and my parents were so upset. But after sharing my story online and reading some feedback, I realized I wasn't alone in thinking she was out of line. Many people agreed that while correcting someone can be helpful, doing so in a mocking, loud, and repetitive way is just bullying. And for my parents to constantly excuse her behavior just because she was a guest, or because she was just a kid, didn't make it okay. Thanks to the advice from many commenters, I decided to switch tactics. Instead of confronting her again or engaging further, I just stopped speaking Chinese altogether. The next day, I pretended I didn't understand when they spoke to me in Chinese. I'd just look at them with a confused expression and shrug. At first, they found it amusing, thinking I'd somehow forgotten Chinese overnight. But eventually, they realized what I was doing. The mom, who barely speaks English, stopped trying to talk to me completely. The daughter tried speaking to me in English, which she clearly wasn't comfortable with. Her English wasn't that great, and while I understood most of what she said, I acted like I didn't. She kept asking why I was being so mean, and if we weren't friends. Eventually, she ran to her mum again to complain. My parents were even more upset with me and told me I was being childish. But I stood my ground. My brother came to visit, saw how things were, and offered to let me stay at his place for a while. I happily accepted. Apparently, without me around to translate or guide them, their visit wasn't very enjoyable. According to my parents, they were miserable for the rest of the trip. When they finally left, my parents stopped by my brother's place and handed me a letter the girl had written. They said she was so kind and sweet for still wanting to be friends. I opened the letter. It was entirely in Chinese, except for her social media tag. I didn't even bother trying to read it. Honestly, I'm glad they're gone. Even without the language issue, they were rude and inconsiderate guests. I tried my best to be polite and helpful, but I won't allow someone to disrespect me over and over just because they're a guest. Am I in the wrong for returning the jewelry my husband gave me for our 10-year anniversary? I wanted to share something that happened recently between my husband and me. It's still weighing on me, and I'm hoping for some outside perspective. The anniversary gift. My husband, let's call him E, 34M, and I, 32F, recently celebrated our 10-year wedding anniversary. To mark the occasion, E surprised me with a beautifully wrapped box containing a matching necklace and earrings set in my favorite color. The box also included 3 types of liquor-filled chocolates. I was touched. It was clear he had put thought into the gift. I genuinely appreciated it. However, things weren't perfect in our relationship at the time. We'd been struggling, both emotionally and financially. He had been spending most of his evenings out drinking and hanging with friends while I stayed home with our kids. We argued a lot about his late nights and drinking habits. Because of that, I had decided to quit alcohol, at least for a while, and he knew this. So while I loved the jewelry, I felt a bit disheartened by the inclusion of liquor chocolates. It wasn't a huge deal, just a small sting, like a reminder of the distance growing between us. Still, I didn't say anything and planned to wear the jewelry the next day. The following afternoon, he noticed I wasn't wearing the necklace and asked me about it. I had simply forgotten in the chaos of getting our kids ready for school. But his reaction caught me off guard. He said, "If I'm going to go hungry just to buy you something nice, I'd hope you'd at least wear it." That floored me. I immediately felt terrible, both for forgetting and for the fact that he had skipped meals to buy it. I asked how much the set cost, and it turned out to be quite a lot, enough to cover a couple of bills and reduce some of our financial stress. He kept bringing it up over the next few days. Each time he'd see me without the necklace, he'd remind me that he hadn't eaten lunch that week to afford it. The guilt piled on. I'm not much of a jewelry person to begin with. I wear pieces occasionally, but they're not part of my daily routine. And now, this beautiful gift had become a constant reminder that our finances were strained and that my husband had sacrificed food for it. One afternoon, I took the jewelry back to the store. I told the salesperson that it wasn't to my taste and asked if a return was possible. Thankfully, they gave me a full refund minus a small restocking fee. I used the money to pay off some overdue bills, nothing extravagant, just practical things that had been stressing us out. I didn't tell E about the return. Given how rarely I wear jewelry, I figured he might not notice. I hoped that in time, this would quietly fade into the background. But a few days later, E came to me, clearly upset. One of his acquaintances had seen me at the store and told him I returned the gift. We had a long talk. He was hurt and said he felt disrespected and unappreciated. I explained why I did it, not out of spite, but because it broke my heart that he had skipped meals to buy me something material. I told him it was hard to enjoy wearing something that came at such a high cost emotionally and financially. That conversation led to a deeper discussion about our relationship. We decided to start therapy together, and things have been gradually improving since then. Here's the catch, though. Since that incident, he hasn't given me any gifts, not even a card, for any holiday or special occasion. When I asked him about it, he told me he doesn't see the point because I'll just return anything he gives me. We've had this same argument a few times now. He insists that what I did was thoughtless and that I embarrassed him by returning the gift. I feel like I made a difficult decision under tough circumstances and did what I thought was best for our family. So, am I wrong for returning the jewelry my husband gave me? I understand his perspective. He felt like he made a sacrifice to show love and appreciation, and I rejected it. But from my perspective, I didn't want to wear something that came at the expense of his well-being. I didn't want him starving himself to give me a luxury we couldn't afford. I also felt his ongoing comments, reminding me that he wasn't eating because of my gift, were emotionally manipulative, whether he intended them to be or not. It made the gift feel like a burden instead of a gesture of love. At the end of the day, I wish things had gone differently. I wish we could have had a real conversation about the gift and our financial situation before it reached that point. I wish he had talked to me before spending that much money. And I wish I had told him how I felt instead of making the decision alone. Am I wrong for telling him I don't want to get married anymore? My boyfriend, M, and I have been together for 2 years, and we were planning to get married this December. We had discussed the date and the details, and everything seemed to be moving in the right direction. Or so I thought. Last week, M called me out of the blue to tell me that he had sat down with his parents and they decided he should postpone the wedding to next year. According to him, getting married this year was impractical, and he couldn't afford it. He emphasized that this was his family's decision and I should just accept it. I was completely blindsided and hurt. It felt like my opinion didn't matter at all. I told him how disappointed I was that this major life decision was made without me. He said he was sorry but that he had to prioritize other responsibilities and honor his parents' wishes. I tried to stay calm, but inside I was spiraling. We were supposed to be partners, and here he was making huge decisions with other people, not me. 2 days later, M texted me saying he wanted to go back to the original wedding date. I was stunned. I asked him what changed, especially since he had just told me he couldn't afford it. He said he wanted to thug it out and make it work. That's when I told him I didn't want to get married anymore. I explained that he had already shown me how little he values my opinion, and that I couldn't trust someone who changes life plans like changing clothes. M got angry and accused me of being difficult. He said he was giving me what I wanted, so he didn't understand why I was upset. I reminded him of the financial concerns he had just expressed and pointed out the inconsistency. It felt like he was making decisions on a whim, and I couldn't rely on him to follow through. Update: please don't be mad. After that conversation, M and I agreed to continue dating. Why? Because I love him. I needed more time to emotionally detach myself from the relationship. I know it sounds foolish, but love makes people do strange things. This was all before I read the comments and truly began to reflect. Yesterday was our 2-year dating anniversary. Want to guess what M got me? Absolutely nothing. No gift, no thoughtful gesture, just a social media post. When I asked him why, he said he hadn't gotten paid yet. But I know for a fact he got paid 2 days ago. That wasn't even the worst part. A while back, and promised to loan me $400 to help with my small business. We had even agreed that I'd repay him in small weekly installments. So I asked him about the loan, and he replied that he needed to check with his lawyer first. His lawyer? For a $400 loan between partners? That just left me feeling even more confused and frustrated. I'm starting to see a pattern. It's like he never makes his own decisions. It's always his parents, his lawyer, or some third party. He rarely sticks to our plans or follows through on his promises. And frankly, I'm exhausted. Reading the comments and reflecting on everything, I now realize these are massive red flags. M constantly puts others before our relationship. He cancels and changes plans without consulting me. He makes promises he doesn't keep. And worst of all, he makes me feel like I'm the unreasonable one for expecting consistency and respect. So, to everyone who offered advice and support, thank you. Your words help me see things more clearly. I think I'm finally done with this relationship. I deserve someone who values me and includes me in decisions about our future. Someone who doesn't disappear behind excuses and people-pleasing. Maybe I was never the one being difficult. Maybe I was just the only one trying to make this work. So was I wrong for telling him I don't want to get married anymore? Breaking up with my boyfriend after he was deployed to the LA riots with the National Guard. I don't normally post on here, especially not something like this, but I'm in bed under 3 blankets, my cat is curled up beside me, and I still can't stop shaking. I can't stop obsessing, spiraling, and the only thing I can think to do is get it all out here. I know I might sound crazy. Maybe I am. But I need to put this somewhere. So, the title. Yeah. It's a lot, I know. My boyfriend, Kyle, 24M, and I, 24F, have been together for almost 3 years now. We met through mutual friends, clicked quickly, and started dating within a few months. He's sweet, thoughtful, and dorky in a way that makes you want to roll your eyes and hug him at the same time. He's also been in the National Guard for the entire time we've been together. That part, that's always been a sticking point for me. Not a deal breaker, not even a major issue, but something that always lingered in the background. I'm not into military culture. I hate violence. I don't like war. I grew up in a pacifist household, and the idea of uniforms and guns and missions always left a bad taste in my mouth. But Kyle didn't seem like that. He wasn't what I pictured when I thought of someone in the Guard. He's soft-spoken when he's not in uniform, nerdy about his TV shows, cries during animal rescue videos, and makes the best pancakes. So I made peace with it. Or I thought I did. Last year, he was deployed to help with flood responses in another state. That scared me, of course. He was away for weeks, in rough conditions, but he was helping people. That made it easier. I kept telling myself, he's helping. He's one of the good ones. But now it's different. He got the call to deploy to LA for riot control. 2 months. National Guard units being sent in as part of the response to the civil unrest. You've probably seen the news. I know I have. Maybe too much of it. Burning cars. Tear gas. People screaming. Protesters being thrown to the ground. A journalist being shot with rubber bullets. I freaked when he told me. Not outwardly, not then. I just went really quiet. I tried to be supportive. I gave him space to pack. I didn't cry. I told him I loved him. He left. He texted me when he arrived that he was safe and that he loved me. Then, nothing. Hours of silence. And that's when I broke. I've been spiraling ever since. I keep trying to tell myself that it's just part of his duty. That he'll be okay. That he's just following orders. That he's not going to hurt anyone. That he won't be in the videos I'm seeing on TikTok. But I don't believe it anymore. We had a conversation a few days before he left, about what it might look like if things got worse. I asked him, half joking, half serious, what he would do if he had to point a weapon at someone. He didn't answer. Not really. He brushed me off, told me to stop watching 60-second doomsday clips, and that the Guard responds appropriately. It was vague. Dismissive. Like he was protecting me from the details or just didn't want to deal with it. I made a joke to lighten the mood, called him cryptic. He smirked. Then he started doing push-ups and jumping in place like he had to burn off energy. He sprayed the bathroom with Febreze like we were about to have guests. That's a thing he does sometimes. He gets hyped before he leaves, like he's getting ready for a game. I used to think it was cute. Now, it scares me. He has routines. Weird ones. He insists on always sitting facing the door at restaurants. If I ask to switch because of sunlight or a draft, he refuses. Once, we were at a Mexican place, and I had to squint the whole meal because he needed the tactical view. It's like he can't turn off the soldier part of his brain. He has an emergency backpack in the trunk of our car with water, protein bars, a flashlight, and a knife. He critiques the snacks I keep in my glove box. Too much sugar. Not enough protein. One day you'll thank me. A few weeks ago, we were in the grocery store and he told me to practice an emergency exit. He wanted to see how fast I could grab my purse and get out. I thought he was joking. I did a mock sprint down the cereal aisle and laughed. He didn't. He got annoyed. Told me I'd be trampled if it were real. He went back to comparing tomato sauces like nothing had happened. I should have taken it more seriously then. But I didn't. Then there were the fights. Not a lot. Not all the time. But the ones we had, they stuck with me. The most recent big one was during the George Floyd protests. We were talking about the demonstrations and police brutality, and he made a joke. A cruel, offhand joke about crowd control and cracking skulls. I was horrified. I told him that wasn't funny. That it was gross. He looked at me like I'd insulted his mother. Cold. Distant. He walked out mid-argument. Came back an hour later with a busted knuckle. Said he hit the mailbox. I didn't ask. I just bandaged it and gave him ice. Another time, we fought about something I can't even remember. I started crying. He slammed the freezer door so hard the fridge moved and condiments toppled inside. He apologized the next day. Fixed it. Brought me flowers and pizza. Told me it was a stress response. That my crying triggered something in him. That he didn't mean it. I told him I didn't mean to cry. I really didn't. I keep thinking about how he left. Not like it was hard. Not like it was painful. But like he was excited. Like he was in game mode. Focused. He gave me a side hug. Not even a real one. He said, "You got this," like I was the one going to a conflict zone. Then he was gone. Now I'm here. Still under the blankets. Still shaking. I don't know what to do. I want to be supportive. I want to be the partner who sticks around during the hard stuff. But something about this whole thing has made me feel like I'm seeing Kyle clearly for the first time. And what I see scares me. Not because he's going to hurt me. He never has. But because I don't recognize this person anymore. Or maybe I never did. He's rigid. Cold sometimes. Intense in ways that make me feel small. He shuts down when I cry. Gets mad when I laugh at the wrong time. Has habits and routines that make me feel like I'm living with someone always waiting for a war to break out. And now he's part of a force that could be hurting people who are fighting for justice. People who look like my friends. People who could be me. I want to wait until he gets back to talk. To decide. But the truth is, I don't know if I can. Would I be the asshole if I ended things while he's away? Or right when he gets back? Or is this just what being in a relationship with someone in the military is like, and I'm not strong enough to handle it? I feel like I'm falling apart. I love him. I do. But I'm not sure I can do this anymore. Update: we broke up. I wasn't planning to post an update, but a few people messaged me asking what happened. And honestly, writing the original post helped me sort through a lot of what I was feeling. So here it is. Kyle came back a few days ago. I waited. I didn't contact him while he was gone, aside from a couple of short replies to his check-ins. I kept it civil, but distant. I needed that time and space to think. When he finally walked through the door, he seemed different. Not in a bad way at first. He was calm. Hugged me properly this time. Said he missed me. But then almost immediately, it was like we were pretending nothing had happened. No talk about what he'd seen or done. No real check-in on how I was doing. He just slipped back into our apartment like it was a pair of boots. We went out for dinner the next night. He insisted on facing the door, again. The sun was right in my eyes. I didn't say anything this time. But when we got home, I told him we needed to talk. I laid everything out. How scared I'd been. How I felt like I didn't recognize him anymore. How I wasn't okay with how he shut me down or made me feel like my emotions were dangerous. How I didn't want to live my life always feeling like I had to stay small just to keep the peace. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "So that's it, huh?" He didn't yell. He didn't beg. He just kind of shut down like he always does when things get too emotional. I told him I still cared about him, but I couldn't keep doing this. That I needed to be in a relationship where I felt safe in all the ways. Not just physically, but emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. Where I was put first. I couldn't believe he didn't even try, didn't give any meaningful insight, nothing. I think a part of him knew it was coming. He stayed at his buddy's place that night. Came back the next day for his stuff. We were both quiet, polite, tired. He didn't hug me goodbye this time. To everyone who commented and messaged me last time, thank you. You helped me feel less alone, and more grounded in what I already knew deep down, that I deserve to feel safe, supported, and heard in a relationship. To anyone reading this who's struggling with someone who isn't bad but still makes you feel small or scared, please know that's enough. You don't need a dramatic reason to leave. Just the quiet knowledge that you aren't thriving. That's enough. And no, I don't think I was in the wrong. Having trouble asking my BF to pay for half of the hotel on a trip? My BF, 31M, and I, 22F, are planning a trip to the Southwest. Every time we have traveled so far we have split everything 50-50ths. Planning this trip last week he asked me to start buying things so we aren't doing it last minute. Instead of splitting each night and hotel 50-50, like I thought he was going to. He said that I'll cover the first 2 nights and he will do the last 2. The first night just somewhere close to the airport to sleep before a drive to the Grand Canyon where we spend the next night, then the last 2 nights in Vegas. I said sure and booked the first 2 hotels, about $250 total. He mentioned something about his friend, who was meeting us there and who was filthy rich, might being able to get him a discount for a nicer hotel in Vegas. His rich friend ended up booking the hotel for us the last 2 days, so my boyfriend isn't paying for it. Last night we were talking about how much this trip was going to cost us each and breaking down the costs by person, and I saw that he put $250 under hotel category. I told him that I only spent $250 total, so it would only be $125 each. He asked what I was talking about and said that I was responsible for the first 2 nights and him the last 2, end of story. It shouldn't matter how he covers those 2 nights. I told him that it seems like you worded our deal in a way where you spend nothing for the hotel since you knew your friend was going to pay for the last 2 nights and you would get me to pay for the first 2, and it seems deceptive. He said that if we split us 50-50 each night like I want, then I would also be benefiting from his friend's money since I'm claiming half his generosity and I never even met him. He was asking me like, "Are you saying you want my friend's money?" And gave the example that if we were to buy a laptop together that's $1,000 and we each pay half and his friend decided to pay his portion as a gift either in the moment or later, it's not like he would owe me another $250. He said that I am being selfish. He said that he only put the hotel category, since he is planning on using that money to buy his friend a drink or a dinner. He told me before that we should take him to dinner, meaning split the bill again to thank him. I really cannot tell if I was being selfish or if I am being gaslit right now. We argued about it for a while and I just told him he is right and I'm sorry and I'm embarrassed about what I did to get him to eventually stop calling me selfish and arguing with me even after apologizing and asking to move on. He's a very honest, too honest person, so I don't really think he is the sneaky type who would do this, but I really felt like it was wrong. I would have paid half of the first 2 nights in the case if I were him, since I now would have been able to lighten the load for my girlfriend. So what should I do? Date. I have gotten to the point since this experience that I feel annoyed even just being in his presence. My therapist yesterday said that I seem capable of this ending now and she never saw me this way before. I made sure to give thanks to my friends on Reddit. Laughing face. Today, I had a virtual interview/info session at the local children's hospital to volunteer in the ED, which is very exciting to me and important since I'm applying for a psych in clinical child psychology in the fall. I explained to him that I was considering which days/times to say I am available, and he didn't understand what I was saying and got overly frustrated. I was being as calm and polite as I could. He got frustrated telling me this is my fault and to admit that I am horrible at explaining things. I told him that this is not a big problem and I can explain it later, but it is 11:59 and I need to join my meeting now. He said something rude I don't remember and I said, "I hope you don't mean that. If you want to keep talking about this later, but I need to leave now." He said, "This is important. You can't hang up. If you hang up, consider yourself uninvited to the trip." I said we will talk later and hung up saying, "How important this is to me is more important than this trivial argument." I was the last one to the meeting, a few minutes late. He then sent me this right away. How to add screenshot on computer, cancel your trip. cancel the Activites and send me the half of the money now. You are done. I don't have a patience for you. And I'm not going to argue with you about money or want to even hear from you. I don't like you, and I don't feel attracted to you. I just liked your company, no more than that at all. I'm sure of it now. It's just a waste of time. I will stop talking to you, and I am blocking you now as we don't have any reason to be in contact anymore. If you don't want to send money, you can keep it. Hopefully you send it in your conscience, otherwise it's fine. This is not working. You're too young and immature. Bye. I am now blocked. I feel so good right now. I am happy he is gone. I am sad about some of the good things we will miss and him in general since he wasn't all bad, but the weight off my shoulders is so incredible. Another interesting fact, as some of you saw, is that there was a DV incident a few months ago, which I am sure I will make another post about it tonight or tomorrow, and I was finally abused with this as well. I gave him around $7,000 for lawyers and for his rent when he was not allowed to return to work. I also probably spent about $1,500 in long-distance realtor fees since he never came to my state. However, I am grateful this is all it was. Many people in DV relationships don't leave until it's too late. They don't leave until their kids get hurt, until they are 15 years in, or until they eventually lose their life. I am so happy my loss was only of time, money, and some mental scarring. Thank you all so much for your support, and please keep sending it to me these next few days if able. I still don't know if I will cancel the trip, go alone, or bring a friend, but genuinely Reddit, you opened my eyes and that saved me. Wanting to get out. Let me start by saying this up front. I take full responsibility and accountability for the decisions I made, no matter how poor they were, how rushed they seemed in hindsight, or how badly they've turned out. I'm not trying to paint myself as a saint here. I made my choices, I ignored red flags, and now I'm dealing with the consequences. But I also feel like I've been manipulated, taken advantage of, and frankly betrayed, and I need to know if I'd be the asshole for cutting my losses and walking away, completely. I'm a 40-year-old man. About a year ago, I met a woman. Let's call her Tanya. She's 34, and she has 5 kids. Yeah, 5. When I met her, she was living with her parents. Things started out pretty casually. I gave her my number, but she wasn't initially interested, which was fine. But fast forward a few months, and suddenly she's more open to talking. At first, I thought she just changed her mind, which can happen. People warm up to each other over time, right? But I'd be lying if I said I didn't notice the change happened right after she saw how I was living. I had a clean, fully furnished apartment. I had a decent job, a stable lifestyle, and a good relationship with my daughter, who lives out of state with her mom. My daughter visits during the summer, and I make sure to fly out to see her a few times a year. I try to keep things stable and grounded. Tanya started talking about the future, about living together, building a home, being a family. She said she admired that I had my shit together. She started making comments like, I can see us building something real, or, you're the kind of man who can hold it down. A few months into dating, Tanya found a brand new 5-bedroom house that had just been built. She sent me the listing, all excited. She said it could be our family home. It was big enough for everyone, her and her 5 kids, and space for when my daughter visits. It sounded good, ideal even, and I was feeling hopeful about our future. She proposed we split the expenses 50-50ths. That sounded fair to me. I agreed without hesitation. Here's where things started to slide off the rails. When we moved in, this was mid-February, I paid the entire security deposit, the full first month's rent, and the prorated rent for February, thousands of dollars, all out of my pocket. Tanya had told me she'd go half with me, but then she said she was a little short and would pay me back in installments. She offered to give me $300 a month until her half was paid. That seemed reasonable at the time, because I thought we were building a real partnership. I thought she was genuinely trying. She gave me that $300 once. That's it. Meanwhile, I went out of my way to make the place feel like a home, not just for me, but for her and her kids. I gave her 12-year-old daughter my bedroom set. I gave her 10-year-old and 5-year-old daughters my daughter's bedroom furniture since my daughter only visits for part of the year. I figured it made sense and would make the girls feel more comfortable. I furnished the entire living room with brand new furniture I paid for. I even added furniture I had in my apartment to the mix. I helped her son get his room set up too. Her 18-year-old daughter furnished her own room, which I respect. I took the bonus room and turned it into a man cave using some of my old stuff. Our master bedroom had her old bedroom set, which was fine with me. I wasn't trying to control the space. I just wanted us all to have comfort. But less than a month into living there, I noticed something was off. Tanya got distant, cold. She barely spoke to me. She stopped sleeping in our room and started sleeping on the couch. I tried to ask what was wrong, but her answers were short and dismissive. When I pressed her, she told me, "I don't think we really like each other." That hit hard. To me, it sounded like she was saying she didn't like me anymore. And that's when I started paying closer attention. I checked her phone one day, not something I'm proud of, but something in my gut told me things weren't right. What I found made me feel sick. Messages. Explicit messages. Photos. Conversations with other guys from her job. Random dudes from Facebook Messenger. I saw things I wish I could unsee. Dirty pictures, sexting, flirtatious exchanges that had clearly been going on for a while. It all made sense. The distance. The lack of intimacy. The cold shoulder. She wasn't just losing interest. She was already moving on emotionally and physically with other men. Meanwhile, I was here holding up the entire household, financially and emotionally. We had been planning a trip together from June 13th to 16th. I was supposed to pay for part of it, and up until a couple of weeks ago, I was still planning to go. But now, there's no way. I haven't told her yet, but I'm not going. Instead, I've got a whole different plan in mind. She and the kids will be gone during that trip. While they're out, I'm planning to pack up everything that I paid for. Bedroom sets, furniture, electronics, even the damn spoons and forks if I feel like it, and get out. Move on. Start over. I know what some people are going to say, the kids didn't do anything. Why punish them? And I hear that. I really do. But those kids came as a package deal. And unfortunately, they leave as a package deal. I don't owe her or them a damn thing after this. Especially when Tanya changed the rules of our relationship the second she decided to start stepping out with other men. If she truly cared about her children's stability and well-being, she wouldn't have put them in this situation. She wouldn't have risked their home and security by disrespecting the man who was holding everything together. That was her choice, not mine. So now I'm asking ITA for walking away and taking back everything I brought into this house? I tried to be the good guy. I tried to build something real. But at some point, being the good guy starts to feel like being the sucker. And I refuse to let this woman use me any longer just because I was willing to take a chance on something that clearly wasn't mutual. I want to stop paying for my friend's therapy. I, 33F, have been covering the cost of my friend's, 40F, therapy for over a year now. It started with good intentions, and I never imagined it would go on for this long, but now I'm in a tough spot, and I don't know if pulling back makes me a bad person. Here's the backstory. My friend has been through a lot. Within a short span of time, she lost her mother. They were extremely close, and the loss was especially hard because she felt like her mom didn't get proper medical care or diagnoses, largely due to financial issues. Around the same time, her soulmate Kat died. Her screenwriting career hit a massive wall, for reasons outside her control. And the day job she relied on to pay bills cut her hours and her income in half. It was just one blow after another, and understandably, she spiraled. She became severely depressed, was grieving multiple losses, and began self-harming. She even started talking about not wanting to be here anymore. She didn't have health insurance, so she was paying for therapy out of pocket, and when her hours got cut, she was going to have to stop. That worried me a lot. Therapy was the only thing giving her any kind of relief or support. So, I offered to pay for it, $400 a month, just until things stabilized. At the time, she had just sold a script. The production company seemed excited and told her they wanted to move quickly, so we both assumed she'd get paid soon. I was in a solid financial place then, and I thought it would just be for a couple of months. That was over a year ago. The script still hasn't gone into production. She hasn't sold another one since. Her income hasn't improved, and I've now been paying $400 a month for over a year. That's nearly $5,000 so far, not including the other times I've helped with money for groceries, bills, even her mom's meds back when she was still alive. To be clear, I don't resent doing it. I care deeply about her. But my own life has changed a lot recently. I'm in a committed relationship now with someone I want to build a future with. We have financial goals, saving for a home, traveling, possibly starting a family someday. That $400 a month would make a real difference for us. It's not that I can't keep paying, it's that I don't know if I should, especially given everything else. And the truth is, I don't see much change on her end. She still refuses to look for a better paying job. She insists she has to work from home so she can take meetings with producers whenever, but she hasn't had a single meeting in over a year. I get that she doesn't want to give up on her dreams, and I don't want her to either, but there's a difference between giving up on a dream and adjusting temporarily to survive. It's like she's stuck, and she won't take any steps to get unstuck. The real turning point for me came a few months ago, when she asked me for nearly $2,000 to cover her taxes. I had just paid my own and also found out my car needed major, expensive repairs. I didn't have the money. I told her that, but she kept asking. First, she pushed back. Are you sure you can't? I'll pay you back when I get the payout from the script. But at this point, that's starting to feel like wishful thinking. Nothing ever pans out the way she says it will. I told her no again. She came back a second time and said, well, could you give me this amount, and I'll try to come up with the rest somewhere else? Again, I told her I couldn't. After that, I stopped replying. It made me feel weird, like I wasn't being heard, or worse, like she saw me as a bank instead of a friend. Eventually, she messaged again and said something like, sorry, forget I asked. You've already been paying for my therapy and I'm super grateful, so if you can just keep doing that, I'd appreciate it. And I don't know, that rubbed me the wrong way, too. Maybe I'm being too sensitive, but it felt like she was saying, okay, I won't ask for more, but you'll still pay for this, right? It made me feel obligated. Like I didn't have a choice. Like my role in her life is just to keep her afloat financially. That message has been bouncing around in my head ever since. Again, I want to be clear, I don't regret helping her. I've bought her groceries. I gave her money for her mom's meds. I've sent her small amounts just so she could go out and get a matcha or something nice for herself, because I know what it's like when life feels so bleak that even tiny joys matter. I've been there. But at the same time, I'm reaching my limit. Emotionally and financially. I don't think it's sustainable for me to keep doing this, and the longer it goes on, the more uncomfortable I feel about the dynamic. Still, I'm scared. I'm scared that if I stop paying, her mental health will take a nosedive. That she might start self-harming again. That she might feel abandoned. And I hate the idea that cutting her off might cause her real pain. But I also know I'm not her therapist. I'm not her safety net. I'm her friend. And I'm starting to feel like she's not really doing the work to get herself to a better place. And I'm just enabling that by paying for therapy sessions she's using to stay afloat instead of move forward. So I don't know what to do. Would I be the asshole if I stopped paying for her therapy? And if I wouldn't, if people agree that I've done enough, how do I even say that to her? How do I tell her that I can't keep paying without sounding cruel or abandoning? How do I avoid the implication that I'm telling her to just get over it or get a better job already? Because that's not how I feel. I know she's struggling. I know this has been a horrific period of her life. But I'm struggling too, in a different way, and I don't think I can keep sacrificing my own goals and stability to support someone who won't meet me halfway. Wanting to spend the full family trip without my spouse and telling him to just keep the kids he wanted to take on his own trip. Every year since before I was born, my family has gone on the same vacation. It's been a tradition for over 50 years. My grandfather started it, and when he passed away, my dad, his son-in-law, promised we would carry it on, no matter what. Over time, the family has gotten smaller. Some people stopped coming after my grandfather died, but my parents, siblings, and I have always kept it going. It's more than a trip, it's how we stay connected. It's 1 week a year, and it means the world to my mom. This year, my mom called me with the planned dates, but they overlapped with my kids' last week of school. I told her we probably couldn't make it. She actually called around to the rest of the family to see if they'd be okay moving it 1 week later, just so we could still come. Everyone agreed. It felt good to be included and supported. I told my husband, let's call him Dave, about the plan 6 months ahead. That's the earliest we're allowed to book the cabin. There's only one that fits all of us, and it's kind of a battle each year to grab it before another family snags the dates. So this is not a last-minute kind of thing. When I told Dave the new dates, I asked if he wanted to come. He said no. He didn't want to be around my family, especially my mom. He's still upset because about a year ago, she gave our 3 daughters haircuts without asking and gave them bangs. It wasn't malicious. She genuinely thought she was helping and the girls wanted bangs. I get being frustrated, and I told my mom to check with us next time, but Dave totally blew up and told her off. Since then, things have been tense between him and my family. So I said okay, that's fine. If he didn't want to go, the kids and I would still go. I reminded him multiple times over the months that he was still welcome to join us if he changed his mind. He never said yes, just stayed cold about it. But he kept asking little questions. How long are you going for? Who's going? What's the plan? Etc. I kept reminding him, "You're welcome to come. We'd love to have you." He kept refusing. We were about 2 months out when he suddenly said, "I want to take 2 of the kids to Six Flags that weekend. You'll be with your family." This caught me completely off guard. First of all, why that weekend? Summer's long. There are plenty of other weekends. And second, which 2 kids? We have 4. I asked him why not take them all. Or wait until we're all back. He didn't give me a real answer. Just brushed it off. I kept asking, trying to understand what he was trying to do. He never answered me. Then he told me I would need to come back early, on Monday. The trip is from Friday to Friday. I had taken the full week off work. My plan was to relax, spend time with family, and give the kids a break too. But he said he had to work that week and would need me to be home to watch the other kids. I reminded him again that I had already taken the time off and didn't plan on needing a sitter or rushing home. He kept insisting. I asked again, "Why that weekend? Are you trying to stop me from seeing my family?" I even said it half jokingly, but he didn't respond. He just acted annoyed every time I brought it up. Meanwhile, the kids haven't seen my side of the family in about 6 months. Because every time I've tried to plan a visit, Dave finds a reason we can't go. He's busy, it's too far, the car needs work, etc. He just never wants to go, and I get tired of always dragging the kids alone. So finally, I got fed up. One night after work, I just told him flat out, "I'm staying the full week. I'll drive back on Friday as planned, and I'll bring the kids who are going with me." That was that. He looked upset but didn't say anything. Then on Mother's Day, he randomly tells me he's thinking about coming after all, but he's not sure when or for how long. He just dropped that on me like it would fix everything. At that point, I felt like he was trying to control the situation without actually participating. Like he didn't want to go, but also didn't want me to enjoy going without him. I just kept it peaceful and let it go. I didn't want to argue anymore. But it gets worse. My 2 oldest daughters have birthdays right after the trip. Dave decides he wants to rent an Airbnb to celebrate, but the only date he says is available is the Friday when my entire family will be driving home from the vacation. Not only does this force me to leave the trip early again, but it also means none of my family will be able to come to their birthday party. It felt intentional. Like another move to isolate us from my family. I brought it up, and he just said, "Well, it's the only day available." But I looked later, and there were other days open. He just didn't want to consider them. That's when I hit my limit. I told him, "If you're planning all these things with 2 of the kids, then you take them. Go to Six Flags, the zoo, the water park, do all of it. I'll take the other 2 with me to the family trip." I figured if he's going to treat this like a split household for the week, then he can be responsible for the ones he wants to take. He didn't respond well. But honestly, I didn't care anymore. So here's where we are now. He's not officially coming on the trip, but keeps vaguely hinting he might. He's planning an entirely separate week of activities with just 2 of the kids, leaving me to figure out how to manage the other 2. He wants me to leave early to accommodate his schedule, even though I've planned this for 6 months. And he's made birthday plans for our daughters that exclude the family we've always celebrated with. I feel like he's not being honest about what he's doing or why. I've tried so hard to keep him included and let him make his own choices, but it feels like he's trying to punish me for going at all. Or punish my family for still being close to me. I don't know. So AIT for deciding to spend the full family vacation without him, and for telling him to just keep the 2 kids he wants to take on his separate trip instead of me picking them up and bringing them along? Would it be wrong for me to not go out of my way to fix this when he's the one creating the tension? I love my kids and I hate the idea of splitting them up like this for a week, but I'm exhausted trying to make everyone happy while he keeps throwing obstacles at me. I just want 1 week of peace with my family. Is that too much to ask? Refusing to put out, even though he'd been a gentleman until then? So let me take you all the way back to the beginning. About 2 weeks ago, I was out running errands after work, still in my semi-cute casual outfit and definitely not expecting to meet anyone. I stopped at a local store, and while I was browsing in the snack aisle, I caught the attention of a guy. Let's call him Jay. He was tall, nice smile, easygoing energy, and we ended up having a short but fun conversation by the refrigerated drinks like we were in some indie rom-com. He asked for my number, and I gave it, mostly because he seemed charming, respectful, and genuinely interested. Not in a sleazy way, but like he actually wanted to talk. And talk we did. For the next 2 weeks, Jay called and texted every single day. I'm not exaggerating. He'd call me during his lunch breaks, text me, "Good morning, beautiful," with those little "hope you have a good day" notes that make you smile without even realizing it. We talked about everything: work, life, hobbies, family. Never once did he bring up anything sexual. No creepy WYD texts at 1 a.m., no hints, no inappropriate comments. Just a real grown-up vibe. Old school. Gentlemanly. Like something out of a Hallmark movie, but with a real person. So when he asked if I wanted to go out for a late dinner and drinks, I said yes. I figured, finally, an actual adult date. It felt like we were actually getting to know each other, not just rushing into something. We met up around 11 p.m. at this bar and grill that stays open late. It had a nice mix of chill vibes, outdoor patio with string lights, a jukebox playing 2000s R&B inside, and a bar that served solid drinks. I ordered a couple of Coronas, a Sex on the Beach, and a shot of 1800. He said he wasn't going to drink much since he was driving, and just had one cocktail. Totally understood. Again, gentleman vibes. He paid for everything, opened every door, held my hand, and was super attentive. We vibed. We laughed. He made me feel seen and appreciated. You know that feeling when someone listens to you and laughs at your dumb jokes in a way that feels genuine? It was that. It didn't feel forced or like he was trying to impress me. It felt like we were clicking. Then, maybe after the second drink, the mood shifted just a little. He started jokingly flirting more aggressively, talking about how attractive I was, which I appreciated, but also started slipping in comments like how he could eat me like dinner, or how I should sit on his face later, but in a joking way. Not creepy or aggressive. Just playful. If we hadn't built up that comfort over 2 weeks, I probably would have been put off. But I figured he was just being flirty now that we were face to face and vibing. Around 1 a.m., we were wrapping up, and he suggested we go to his place to chill. Now, yes, I could have seen that as a red flag or a hint at where he thought the night was headed. But we'd been talking for 2 weeks. I thought we were adults just continuing the night. He mentioned he had some grass back at his place, not on him because he doesn't drive with it, which made sense. And I was down to chill, have a little smoke, maybe play some games. He'd mentioned he had a PS5, bonus points, and just talk some more in a quieter place. We get to his place, and let me just say, if there was an award for most deceptive first impression, Jay would be in the running. From the outside, the house looked like your average older home, nothing fancy, but normal. Inside, total chaos. Like, it felt like we walked back in time to 1952. I'm talking yellowed wallpaper, random piles of stuff everywhere, cluttered kitchen, and a living room that looked like it had survived 5 generations of bachelor neglect. I'm not trying to be judgy. It's not about needing a mansion or designer furniture, but cleanliness? That's a bare minimum. The bedroom, Lord. The mattress was on the floor, the sheets looked like they hadn't been washed since the Obama administration, and there were clothes just strewn about. I sat on what I hoped was the cleanest part of the bed, trying not to make a face. The grass came out, and I took a few hits to relax because at that point, my inner voice was screaming. But I stayed calm and tried to go with the flow. I figured maybe he just lives messy, not a crime. I told him I liked gaming, so he hooked up the console. That part was fun, until it wasn't. While I'm sitting there, controller in hand, Jay starts undressing. Not in a "I'm changing into comfies" kind of way. No. He strips down to his boxers, sits on the edge of the bed, and starts talking about how tired he is and how late it's getting. That was my final clue. You ever get that gut feeling, that internal narrator yelling, "Girl, get up"? That was me. My body had already gone into time to dip mode. I put the controller down, smiled, and calmly said, "Hey, I think I'm ready to head home." To his credit, he didn't argue. He didn't pressure me. He just said, "Okay," and got up to get dressed again. Drove me home with no issue, no attitude, no weird comments. I appreciated that. But the vibe had completely changed. The warm energy, the interest, the spark, it all vanished like smoke. No more calls. Barely a text the next day. No. "Did you get home okay?" No. "Had a great time." Just radio silence. And now I'm sitting here wondering, was I the asshole? Was I wrong for not wanting to seal the deal after drinks and weed and late-night vibes? Was it unfair of me to expect that we could hang out and get to know each other without sex being the end goal? Especially when he never brought it up over the 2 weeks we'd talked. We never had a single sexual conversation. Not one. He was a gentleman, until he thought we were alone long enough for expectations to be assumed. I feel like I was totally upfront the entire night. I wasn't leading him on. I was flirty, sure, but not suggestive. I wasn't dressed provocatively, I wasn't talking dirty, and I never promised or hinted at anything sexual happening. So when I asked to be taken home, at 2 a.m., yes, I honestly didn't think it would be a big deal. He'd only had one drink the entire night, had driven to the bar, and clearly was capable of driving me home. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse him of anything. I just decided I was done for the night and wanted to go home. Now that he's basically ghosted me, I'm feeling some type of way. Like, did I owe him something for paying for drinks? For driving me? For being nice? Is that what this has come to? That if a guy is respectful and you hang out late, he thinks sex is the default outcome? I genuinely liked Jay, and I thought he liked me. But maybe I was just a 2-week investment for what he hoped would be a one-night return. So tell me, internet strangers, am I the asshole for wanting to be taken home at 2 a.m. after a date, when it became clear my date expected more than I was willing to give? Even if he'd been sweet and respectful up until then? Even if we smoked and chilled late at night? Because I didn't sign up for sex, I signed up for company. I signed up for a vibe, a good time, and maybe building something real. And now I'm left feeling like I failed some secret test I never agreed to. Dangerous Airbnb guests were kicked out, but now my father-in-law is mad. Hi everyone. I'm feeling really shaken up, and I need some outside perspective on whether I made the right call, or if I really was being irresponsible, as my father-in-law says. To start, I'm 6 months pregnant. I live in a house with my husband and father-in-law. We rent out the basement as an Airbnb. This past week, my husband was away for military training, and my father-in-law was traveling for work, so I was home alone. Everything went sideways on Monday night. The Airbnb reservation was made by a woman for 1 guest. But when the guests arrived, 3 men showed up, plus a dog. Our listing is for 1 guest only, and absolutely no pets. I immediately felt uncomfortable, especially being alone and pregnant. I tried to talk to the woman who booked, but she refused to clarify anything and just said, "Talk to my husband," who I had zero information about. Already red flags, right? I reported it to Airbnb, and after reviewing everything, they agreed there were violations. They canceled the reservation, but the timing was horrible. It was 2:30 in the morning. The next morning, the guests left, I assumed for work, and I figured that meant they were gone for good. But when I checked the basement, all their stuff was still there, and they jammed the basement door open to keep it unlocked. That completely freaked me out. I felt like they were trying to sneak back in without me noticing. I messaged the original guest and asked her to schedule a proper time to collect their things. She ignored me. Fast forward to that evening, the group came back. I locked the door immediately and messaged again, asking her to confirm she understood that the reservation had been canceled and they couldn't stay. Again, I was completely ignored. Instead, the guys started banging on my front door, loud and aggressive. I was scared. Really scared. So I called the police. The police arrived pretty quickly, but to be honest, they didn't take it very seriously. They talked to the guests, and since they were being cooperative, the police said it was fine for them to go downstairs and gather their things. I asked the cops if they could stay until the guests left, but they said there was no need. Spoiler alert, there was a need. As soon as the police were gone, things got worse. The guests cut the Wi-Fi, which disabled all our security cameras and smart locks. They also broke the basement door, and left several windows unlocked and slightly open. This is a semi-basement, so anyone could just crawl in from the outside. At this point, I felt like I couldn't stay in the house safely. I was 6 months pregnant, alone, the house had just been left wide open, and now our security system was down. So I did what felt safest. I took my dog, got in my car, and parked a few blocks away just to make sure they were actually gone. Then I called Airbnb, and later that night, I decided to go stay with my dad, who lives 2 hours away. That's when the drama started. My father-in-law, who has remote access to the security system, called me furious. He accused me of abandoning the house, and said I was irresponsible. He told me I should have stayed to protect the property and basically said I couldn't be trusted to handle this kind of situation again. I was completely blindsided. I explained that I didn't feel safe, and more importantly, I'm pregnant. I told him I made the decision that was safest for me and the baby. I get that the house matters, it's his property, and Airbnb is a business, But I don't think it's fair to expect me to stay in a house that had just been left vulnerable by guests who had already violated multiple rules, disrespected me, and caused damage. And here's the thing, once I got back with a friend to check the place out, I realized just how bad it was. Wi-Fi was disabled. Doors were broken. Windows left open. All our smart security. Useless. I made a full report to Airbnb and the police again. And then I left. Because even with all that, I still didn't feel safe staying there alone. But my father-in-law won't let it go. He still thinks I acted recklessly by not staying. He says I should have prioritized the house, and I ran away instead of being responsible. So now I'm sitting here questioning everything. Was I wrong to leave that night? I didn't do it lightly. I tried everything I could to communicate with the guests, involve Airbnb, involve the police, and protect the house. But when it became clear that my safety was at risk and that no one else was going to be there to back me up, I made the choice to get out of a potentially dangerous situation. What if I didn't invite my best friend's long-term girlfriend to my wedding? I'm getting married this October, and planning this wedding has been mostly exciting, but one specific decision has had me going back and forth for weeks. My fiancé and I are throwing a very small wedding. We're talking around 50 people, including family. It's going to be intimate, calm, and centered around the people who have actually been in our lives over the past year. We've been pretty intentional with the guest list. No co-workers. No vague second cousins. No drama. Just the people who bring us joy and who've been actively present in our lives. That includes some old friends we're still close with, but mostly people we've seen regularly and had real, meaningful connection with over the past year or so. And that brings me to the issue, my best friend's girlfriend. For some background, this friend and I have been close since college. We don't live in the same city anymore. I moved a year ago, so we've only seen each other once since then. But we still consider each other best friends. We've been through a lot together, and I love him dearly. He's been with his girlfriend for about the same amount of time I've been with my now fiancée, so she's not a casual relationship. She's his first serious partner, and they've been together for a few years now. On paper, it would make sense to invite her. I've spent time with her at group events, so it's not like we're total strangers. But here's the honest truth. I really don't like her, and it's not for superficial reasons. Every single time I've spent time around her, whether it's a birthday, a group hangout, a holiday event, she finds a way to make it about her. She's loud, often pulls attention in a way that drains the room, and she has a knack for shifting the tone of any gathering from joyful to, well, exhausting. And I don't say this lightly. I usually go out of my way to avoid talking negatively about people. I believe everyone has bad days, and I try to give grace. But in the several years they've been dating, I have not had one interaction with her where she didn't somehow hijack the space emotionally. I kept trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, especially early on. New relationships are hard to navigate, and I figured maybe she was just nervous. But it kept happening. Every single time. Including my own birthday party, which, last time I checked, is supposed to be about literally anyone other than her. One specific example, although I've downplayed it before, my friend and I used to have one-on-one hangouts, just to catch up like old times. On multiple occasions, she would call him, sobbing or yelling, or suddenly needing a ride home because she got drunk or overwhelmed or mad about something. He would leave our hangouts early to go deal with it. This happened so often it became a running joke with other friends. One we never made in front of him, of course, because he clearly takes the relationship seriously and is deeply invested. He always apologizes for her behavior afterward, but that only makes it more awkward. He knows. And yet he stays with her. Now, with the wedding coming up, I feel incredibly torn. Our policy has been that we're not giving out +1s unless we know and regularly see both people in the relationship. But this one is different. He's one of my oldest friends. And yet, the idea of her being at the wedding makes me feel genuinely anxious. I can already imagine it. She gets too drunk. She throws a fit in the corner. She makes a passive-aggressive comment. She needs to be comforted in the middle of the speeches. She fights with my friend just before the reception and then pulls him away from the dance floor while he's supposed to be enjoying the night. I hope none of that would happen. But it's never not happened in some form during the time I've known her. So I've been debating what to do. My original plan was to just send my friend an invite, solo, and hope he wouldn't notice, or at least wouldn't press the issue. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that was cowardly. I've never told him how I feel about her. I've always held my tongue because I wanted to be respectful of his choices and not meddle in his relationship. I figured he'd either figure it out himself, Or maybe what I saw was just a side of her that didn't represent the whole person. So I stayed quiet. But the truth is, the reason I've stayed quiet also means I've never given him a chance to actually understand where I'm coming from. So now, if I suddenly leave her off the invite with no explanation, it'll feel like a passive-aggressive move, and worse, it might seem like a rejection of him. I spoke to my fiancé about it, who, for the record, has also had rough experiences with her and totally understands my perspective. He encouraged me to either rip off the Band-Aid and have a real conversation with my friend, or let it go and just include her for the sake of peace. But I can't shake the feeling that if I don't talk to my friend honestly, and then she ends up doing exactly what I expect her to do at our wedding, I'll be so angry at myself for not protecting our day. So here's where I've landed. I've decided I will talk to my friend before sending out invites. I'm going to tell him the truth. Not in a cruel way, and not with judgment about their relationship, but honestly. I'll tell him I care about him deeply, I want him there more than almost anyone else, but I also feel like his girlfriend's behavior in the past has made me uncomfortable, and I'm not confident that her presence at the wedding would be in line with the kind of day we're trying to have. I'll let him know that it's nothing personal against him. In fact, if anything, I've kept quiet out of respect for him. But I've reached the point where I can't ignore it anymore. And yes, I'll tell him I completely understand if he decides not to come because of it. I'm not going to demand he agree with me or put me above his partner. I'll just give him the facts and let him make his own decision. Because here's the thing, this day is about me and my fiancé. And if I've spent the past few years feeling uncomfortable or tense every time I'm around someone, I don't want to carry that into what's supposed to be one of the happiest, most meaningful days of my life. Did I handle this situation wrong? 29F and my boyfriend is a 33M. We have been FWB for over 5 years but made the relationship official for the last 4 months. My boyfriend recently took me and his kid to a concert. His parents came along as well but did not go to the concert. We had a lot of fun during it, and brought along an originally made shirt by my boyfriend which I and my BF's kid kept taking turns holding up with a pen in hope of getting a signature from the artist. We ended up getting one in the end. On the walk home, my boyfriend was talking to his child and she was saying how she worked hard to get him his signature. He acknowledged her hard work and said she could keep the shirt cause of all the work she put in. I got a little hurt by this and chipped in with, I worked for it too, because it felt like the work I put in was overlooked. But even though I was upset, I kept quiet most of the trip back to the hotel room. My BF did, at one point, walk up to me and say, "So now you're going to have an attitude about this?" In a quite angry tone. I responded, with a bit of an attitude too, saying, I'm allowed to feel my emotions. Maybe I wanted the shirt too. He responded with something along the lines of, why can't you just feel grateful I brought you along? This was an expensive concert and you didn't have to pay for it. Kept quiet until we got to the hotel. It's around 2 a.m. at this point. I was mostly over the anger about the shirt when around this time, but I was absolutely exhausted and just wanted rest. So I ask him, when are you planning on going to bed? He doesn't respond at first. I respond again with, hello? Can you please answer my question? He says he doesn't know, and that he needs to clean his toe and he was going to the bathroom after. He took me to just lay down and go to sleep. I tell him I'm exhausted and I need the lights off to go to bed, that I've been struggling to sleep properly for the last 5 years and I only recently started fixing my sleep cycle. I didn't want to do anything to mess up the results I only recently started to see. He then looks at me and says, I'm not trying to be rude, but this is a vacation. Enjoy yourself. It felt incredibly dismissive to me. I respond with, just BC, this is a vacation doesn't mean I haven't been dealing with this problem. He doesn't really say anything to me, so I tell everyone, because his daughter was with us too. Fine. Since you want to disregard my needs, I'll be in the bathroom. I'm very sensitive to the light and I need total darkness to sleep. My BF gets enraged by this comment and yells at me that I'm not sleeping in the bathroom. I ignore him and proceed to the bathroom. He then starts angrily telling his kid how they're going to see if they can go sleep in his parents' room next door because I was being childish. A few moments later he comes pounding on the door, demanding that I leave because people need to use the bathroom. I sit there on the floor and let him know he can use it, but I was staying in the bathroom that night. He screams at me multiple times to get out. I stay calm and keep letting him know I'm okay with him using it, but I was not getting out. We had already used the bathroom together before, so I didn't see it as a big deal. Eventually he resorts to telling me he was going to call security on me to forcefully get me out of the bathroom. BC, the room was under his name. He then screamed at me that I was making a scene in front of his daughter. I decide at this point to gather my stuff up and leave the hotel alone together. Told him, fine. You want me to leave? I'll leave. I don't really want to be here anymore with you. I called up a friend to come pick me up. He called me multiple times as I was leaving the hotel, and I told him in a text, I'm safe. Leave me alone. Then I continued to ignore him the rest of the night. We talked about it after. He said I was childish for refusing to leave the bathroom, and he couldn't fathom why I'd go in there after he stated he would be using it. He also said he was hurt I left him that night, worrying that something might happen to me. He said his entire family was upset because they also felt worried that for my safety and that they would have to come to my parents saying I was dead or lost. I stated that I felt incredibly dismissed and disrespected by him, and felt his anger about the t-shirt carried over to the point where he refused to meet a need of mine. I told him I felt humiliated that he was screaming so loud that others outside the room would have heard if the hotel room weren't soundproof, and that he chose to humiliate me in front of his 11-year-old daughter. I also told him that I tried bringing up my issue even before deciding to go to the bathroom in multiple ways, all of which were ignored. He said he thought he answered me by saying he was going to use the bathroom BC. He sometimes likes to stay there for hours and listen to the water fall against the tub. I've told him so many times I need direct answers about things based on the way my brain operates, and had tried addressing the issues in multiple ways but only felt disregarded each time. It hurt that he knew how hard it was for me to sleep and wouldn't work with me because of his anger. I have heard a lot now that the way someone treats you when they're mad will say a lot about how they feel about you. I have apologized to him about the way I left, without clarifying who I was with. I apologized for making him feel like I was instigating a fight, but that there was really nowhere else to go that would have given me what I needed. I apologized for hurting him and his family and making them worry about me like that. I would not apologize for standing my ground in the bathroom. Was I wrong for telling my boyfriend he has feelings for his friend? Hi everyone. I've been really in my head since this happened and honestly need some outside perspective to help me figure out if I overreacted or if I'm right to feel as hurt and confused as I do. So for context, I, 26F, have been dating my boyfriend, 23M, for just over 3 years. We met through mutual friends, clicked instantly, and honestly, it's been one of the most stable and comforting relationships I've ever had. He's incredibly emotionally aware, thoughtful, kind. Just one of those rare people who listens, understands, and seems to truly care about others. It's actually one of the first things I loved about him. Because of his personality, he's always had a good number of female friends, especially in high school and university. I've never had an issue with that. I've never wanted to be the girlfriend who's controlling or jealous. I trust him, and I've never felt threatened by his friendships. But there's one person who's always been a little different. Nancy. Nancy is someone he calls his childhood friend. They met on a family vacation as kids and apparently stayed in touch over the years, mostly seeing each other during summers when their families crossed paths on holiday. So it's not like they went to school together or had the kind of childhood friendship where they were in each other's daily lives. But still, there's this thread that's been running through his life for a long time with her. I'd heard her name a couple of times when we first started dating, but it wasn't like she came up often. I knew they weren't really talking anymore. He told me they stopped speaking about 2 years ago. The reason? He apparently told her that her boyfriend at the time was a bad guy. I think his exact words were that he had a drug problem and shady behavior. Nancy didn't take it well and cut him off completely. Blocked him everywhere. Total radio silence. He was hurt, but he respected her decision and moved on. Or so I thought. I never met her. In fact, she barely came up at all in our relationship. The only deeper conversation we had about her was pretty early on, when I was casually asking about past crushes. He told me, very matter-of-factly, that he used to have feelings for her. That nothing ever came of it, and that it was way in the past, but yeah, he'd once had a thing for her. It didn't bother me at the time. I mean, everyone has a past, right? For some added context, I later learned that his ex, the girl he dated before me, met Nancy once. According to my boyfriend, his ex was really jealous of her and didn't like their friendship. Apparently, she believed Nancy tried to kiss him at a party on his 18th birthday. When I asked him about it, he just said Nancy was a little drunk and affectionate, but insisted it wasn't anything serious, and that his ex was overreacting. Again, I didn't really push it. Fast forward to this week. A couple of days ago, Nancy suddenly reached out to him. Out of nowhere. She texted him and said she was in town for a few days and wanted to catch up. After 2 years of no contact. My boyfriend showed me the message, and he seemed surprised, maybe even a little excited. He told me he was planning to meet her for a quick coffee, just to catch up. He promised it wouldn't be long, said it was just going to be a short chat. I didn't love the idea, I'll admit it. Something in my gut felt weird about it. But I didn't want to come off as possessive or insecure, so I said it was fine. I trust him. I meant it when I said it. He's never given me a reason to doubt him. Until yesterday. He left the house around 10 a.m. Said he was just grabbing coffee with Nancy. Maybe an hour or two tops. I didn't hear from him for hours. I texted him a couple of times during the day, just casual, hope you're having fun, and everything okay? Messages, and he replied only once with a short, yes babe. That's it. No, sorry I'm still out, no updates, no check-ins, no running a bit late. Nothing. And that might sound minor to some people, but this is someone who normally checks in if he's just running 10 minutes late from work. So this silence was really out of character. He didn't come home until 7 p.m. When he walked in, he was all smiles. Super relaxed. Happy, even. He came over, gave me a hug, and acted like it had been a totally normal day. I, on the other hand, had spent the entire day in a spiral. Worrying, wondering what was going on, replaying every possible worst-case scenario in my head. I asked him, trying to stay calm, "What happened? You were gone the whole day." He just sort of shrugged and said, "I didn't realize how much time had passed. We were just talking and catching up. I'm sorry." That's it. No details. No explanation for why he didn't text me. No apology for making me worry. He seemed completely unbothered. And that's when I kind of lost it. I started crying. I told him I'd been anxious all day and that it wasn't okay to just disappear like that, especially when he told me it was just going to be a quick coffee. I asked if there was something he wasn't telling me, if there was something going on between him and Nancy. He got quiet and said, "Well, you haven't asked me anything." I was stunned. Like, what was I supposed to ask? Hey, did you spend the entire day with your childhood crush who you once had feelings for and whose ex-boyfriend you basically tried to rescue her from, and now she's back in your life suddenly after ghosting you for 2 years? So yeah. I pushed again, and he just kept saying he was sorry, that he didn't think it would turn into a whole day, that they were just talking, and that it was good to reconnect. But nothing about it felt okay. And he still didn't seem to understand why I was so upset. I told him I wasn't trying to control who he sees or be dramatic. But I do think it's inappropriate to spend 9 hours with someone you used to have feelings for, especially someone you haven't spoken to in years, without even checking in with your partner. Especially when you told me it would be a quick coffee. Especially when I'm sitting at home wondering where you are. Especially when you come home looking like you just had the best day of your life and your partner is a wreck. And that's when I said it, I think you still have feelings for her. It just came out. But I meant it. Because how else do you lose track of time with someone for 9 hours? How else do you completely forget to check in with your partner? How else do you prioritize that kind of day with someone who once meant something to you, over making sure the person you're with knows they're still your priority? He didn't respond to that. Just stared at me and said, "I'm sorry you feel that way." Which felt like a slap in the face. Now I feel like I've broken something between us. He's been quiet since, and I can tell he's hurt. But I'm hurt too. I spent the whole day feeling like I didn't matter. And even now, I'm not sure I do. He keeps insisting nothing happened. And maybe that's true. But the emotional weight of that day, the secrecy, the time, the history, it's sitting on my chest like a brick. Oh. Am I wrong for telling my boyfriend I think he still has feelings for his friend? I didn't want to accuse him. I just wanted honesty. But now I feel like I've either crossed a line or finally acknowledged something that's been under the surface for a long time. Going low contact with my niece and taking my gifts with me. So yesterday I went over to my sister's house to help her with some things. I was there for a couple of hours and took a little nap for hours because I was tired. After I woke up, I went home and my husband was being a little off and seemed kind of upset/unhappy. I'm like, "What's up?" and he says, "I'm being nice for someone who just texted what I did." I sent my kids upstairs and started asking what the hell was going on. He says I sent him divorce texts. I'm shocked because I never did that, which I let him know. I even showed him my phone, which did not show any such texts. He then shows me his messages under my name, and apparently I want a divorce. I was bamboozled because not only did I not think it, but I definitely did not text that. This affected him a little more because we had a fight the previous night, but we have a tradition of sorts. which is reassuring each other that we still love and care but are just upset at the moment. I'm only adding this because I said something along those lines in the morning before I left, which I brought up when I was defending myself against the text I supposedly sent. He then says I had done something similar previously. This is in reference to when I was pregnant and had some pseudo-bipolar symptoms, which have since been mostly resolved. I've only done this once, and it wasn't even on the same level. I just kind of used to have terrible mood swings. Also, this was only during the pregnancy. I have no bipolar diagnosis or anything like that. That whole journey was kind of traumatic and is not a pleasant memory for me, which he is aware of. I decide to call my sister and explain what was happening, and then I'm like, "Hey, can you pull up your house footage from while I was there this morning?" We're on FaceTime, and we fast forward to when I went to sleep. The outlet in the room I was in wasn't working, so I had plugged my phone in the dining area to charge while I slept. We see my 16-year-old niece on my phone. She was on it off and on for like 2.5 hours, smiling and giggling. I'm upset, and her mom is upset. She calls her and asks if she touched my phone while I was there, and she lies and says no. She asks her again 2 more times if she touched my phone, and she says she didn't. The laptop is faced away from her, and I believe she didn't realize I was on the phone or that we both already saw what she did. It was after my sister started trying to send me the footage, which I had initially asked for, that she saw that her mom had already seen what happened. She started apologizing and saying it was supposed to be a prank and she didn't mean anything by it. She called out to me too with apologies while she was crying. I did not even know what to say at all at this time because why would she even think this was a fun prank, not to mention going into my phone without my permission. I had initially promised I would sponsor her 17th birthday, which is next month. She had previously also asked for a new PC, which I got, but it's supposed to be a surprise. My question is, will I be overreacting if I take all these gifts back and keep a distance from her? Is it overkill? I feel maybe I'm punishing her for the way my husband reacted and brought up something traumatic for me. Also maybe his response is justified because he thought the texts were for me, and then I was all smiley and sweet when I came back. I'm confused on how to proceed, but Reddit has previously helped figure stuff out before, so I decided to turn to them again. Sorry if this was too lengthy, and let me know if there's anything I have to clarify. Thanks. Update. Thank you, everyone, for all the comments and advice. It is incredibly appreciated. All these happened yesterday. I only posted because I was slightly conflicted. To answer common questions in the comments. Yes, I slept for 4 hours at my sister's house. She's my sister, and we do stuff like that. I didn't say I was tired from what I helped her with. I was simply just tired. Both my sister and niece weren't aware of my husband's and my fight from the previous night. Niece also was not aware of the full extent of my mental health struggles from the pregnancy. Niece wasn't texting for 2.5 hours straight. She was on and off the phone. I assume she got off it when she thought she would be caught. Apparently, she has known my password for a while now. She learned it from looking over my shoulder at a family event from a couple of months back. Also, according to my sister, she has gone into my phone before, at least 3 times that she fessed up to. She has transferred money to herself, taken videos and pictures off it, gone through my texts with my kids and some other relatives, stolen other people's numbers, gotten passwords for my streaming services that they didn't own, and gone through my other texts with my husband. And yes, there's very NSFW stuff in there. My husband is okay. We talked, and he apologized for how he spoke to me, but I told him I totally understood why he would say what he said. I also apologized for my reaction. We are okay on our front and decided we were both justified given what we both individually knew. Back to the niece, the only other thing she did according to her, was transfer more money. I checked my recently deleted texts, and there was nothing suspicious there, but I don't know if you can delete texts from recently deleted. She also said she thought the prank would be funny because there was no way my husband would believe all that stuff she texted because, according to her, he loves me too much and we have a perfect relationship. In the texts, he had only replied that we would talk when I got home and that he wasn't going to have that conversation with me over texts. This girl went all the way to add that I would send the papers in a couple of days and talk about the kids with lawyers. I can't explain how absolutely pissed I am. The plan is to go absolutely no contact with her after learning of all the other stuff she did. There will be no birthday and no PC. Someone said to put up a post saying if anyone got a questionable text from me in the last 24 hours to let me know. I did that, no one had reached out yet, so I'm hoping it was just my husband. I'm getting my money back. I checked, and in total she has sent over $700 to herself that I wasn't aware of. She did not send it in bulk, just little bits here and there. I guess I did not catch on because I do send her money often, and I do have quite a bit in my account, so it wasn't obvious. Her mother will send the money to me from her daughter's savings later this weekend. I told her mother about the suggestions you guys gave on community service and therapy. I'm low-key scared for her future relationships and college life. She would not have any electronic devices for the rest of the summer. Personally, I do not want to lay eyes on her in the near future. Oh, and yes, she has done this before to one of her friends whom she is still friends with. I don't know why anyone would remain friends with someone like that. This hurt a lot because I love this child so much. I was more present than her father the first 11 years of her life. She used to come to me for her struggles and problems and all that teenage stuff. She had her first period at my house. Her other cousins on her dad's side are jealous of our relationship, for goodness sake. She was my favorite one. I don't really care what her mom does about all these. I just want my money back and to never speak to her for now. ITA for refusing to apologize to my MIL after saying, "I'm not doing this," and walking out of her house? I'm still simmering after what happened recently and really need some outside perspective. My emotions are all over the place, and while I think I was justified, part of me wonders if I finally crossed a line, or if the line was already miles behind me and I just didn't notice. So here's the situation. I, 34F, have been with my husband, 36M, for nearly 11 years now, married for 8. We've got 2 amazing kids, ages 7 and 8. Our relationship is strong, our home is loving and stable, and we're surrounded by family and friends who genuinely care about us. Well, almost all of them. The glaring exception? His mother. Let me back up. In the early days of our relationship, she was friendly, maybe even enthusiastic. She welcomed me in, smiled for the photos, acted like she was happy her son had found someone serious. But the moment we made a small but apparently unforgivable decision, to move 17 minutes down the road to a nearby town, it was like a switch flipped. 17 minutes. Not a different country, not halfway across the UK, just the next town over. From that point on, she turned cold, distant, petty, passive-aggressive on good days, openly hostile on others. And I really do mean hostile. A few choice examples from over the years, just so you know I'm not exaggerating. On our wedding day, she didn't speak to me, my husband, or any of my family. Not even a card or a congratulations. She just turned up, kept her head down, and left. When our daughter was 9 weeks old and suddenly ended up in ICU, on a ventilator, we were terrified. My husband told his mom to get updates directly from me. He was overwhelmed. Her response? Who? Like she didn't even know who I was. 4 years, I got no birthday or Christmas gifts from her. Nothing. 1 year, she handed me a half-used airline toiletry bag. You know, the kind you get for free in business class? Already opened. She once called me an unfit mother publicly on Facebook. Claimed I have no real job, I'm a university lecturer working on a PhD. Apparently that's not a career. She's barely been involved in our children's lives at all. I genuinely don't remember the last time she did something with them one-on-one. I think my daughter was still in a pram the last time she took them out. And just to top it off, she's begun copying my style. I dress quite Western/country. Cowboy boots, fringe jackets, that kind of thing. Not exactly mainstream in our area. For years she dressed in a very typical conservative way. Now suddenly she's mirroring my outfits. It's subtle but creepy. Not flattering. Just unsettling. Meanwhile, my family, especially my parents, have embraced my husband completely. My dad and my husband are best mates. They go out for drinks, hang out one-on-one, joke like they've known each other forever. We host BBQs together, take holidays, all of it. My mum adores him. It's a healthy, warm dynamic. And of course, this only makes my ML seethe with jealousy. She constantly throws shade about how close we are with my family and how her son is pulling away. The thing is, we've tried. I've kept the door open for years. I've invited her over. I've made every effort to include her, accommodate her, involve her in the kids' lives. But my husband, her own son, has now reached the point where he doesn't even want her in our home. That alone should say a lot. So now to the final straw. Recently, we were invited to 2 events on the same day. One was my cousin's 30th birthday, a family-friendly celebration that had been planned for months. The other? My husband's sister threw together a last-minute piss-up, UK slang for a night out to get drunk, definitely not kid-friendly, for her 23rd birthday. We chose to go to my cousin's party. It had been in the diary for 6 months. Our kids were invited. It was a proper family do, with food, games, the lot. His sister's event was a late-night, adults-only booze fest. So we let his sister know we couldn't make it but sent gifts and cards and arranged to stop by their mums the night before we went on holiday to drop them off in person. That's when it all kicked off. We arrived at Emil's house, completely casual, just there to drop things off. No drama, no arguments. But out of nowhere, she started laying into me. She accused me of treating his sister like she wasn't real family, because we chose to attend my cousin's party instead. Then came more jabs about how my husband is more a part of your family than ours. The usual bitterness, just turned up to 11. And I just cracked. After years of swallowing her comments, pretending to brush off her snide remarks, keeping the peace for the sake of my kids and my husband, I reached my limit. I stood up, looked her square in the eye, and said, "I'm not doing this." Then I walked out. Just like that. No screaming. No theatrics. Just done. My husband followed me out. He's since cut contact with her entirely, hasn't spoken to her since. And the reaction from his siblings? What's she done now? So clearly, I'm not the only one who sees how toxic she can be. Now, Emil is acting like I owe her an apology. She's spinning the story as if I was rude, disrespectful, and overreacted, conveniently forgetting everything she's said and done to push me to that point over the last 9 years. But here's the thing. That was my first and only time ever losing my cool with her. I've taken years of mistreatment, always choosing grace, always prioritizing peace. And I snapped once. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just finally said what I was feeling and left. The guy I dated refused to show me his STD results, so I told him I was pregnant. I matched with this guy on Bumble and we immediately hit it off. We had several deep conversations via text before we even met. By the time we had our first date, we had already developed an intimate emotional relationship, and we were acting like a full-blown couple at the restaurant. Pretty soon after that, we became physically intimate, and we both alluded to feeling super emotionally and physically connected to one another. He showered me with compliments non-stop and was basically love-bombing. We were very open about having feelings for each other. We continued seeing each other multiple times a week, but it was always the same routine. He'd show up late at night, we'd be intimate, watch a show/talk and cuddle, and then he'd leave. He explained the reason for this was that it was tax season, he's an accountant, and that he was working non-stop. He'd show up still in his work clothes. I also began noticing that his texts started to become a bit sporadic. For example, he wouldn't text me back for 2 days at a time or take hours to respond. When I asked him about this, he gave me the same excuse. I had an intuition very soon after our initial date that something was off, but I brushed it off because my friends were saying that I was just trying to find the bad in a good thing. I have a tendency of running away from people when things get too serious. Over the next few weeks, this feeling persisted and the dynamic of us never going out continued. At the time, I had no hard evidence, so I kept chalking my feeling up to my personal issues with relationships. However, I told him that his lack of communication bothered me and he said he would be better about that. He never was. At that point, I began pulling back a little. I felt silly for texting him frequently and responding quickly. What was odd was that he noticed and began questioning me about this. He said it made him insecure and like I lost interest. I explained my rationale and was very communicative. Again, he said he would get better about texting me, but again he never did. We had this exact conversations multiple times. I hadn't heard from him in a few days, and when he eventually called me, I assumed it was because he missed me and wanted to check in.
No.
He was calling to ask if I could get him acid or shrooms because he was going to a club that night with friends. He said the reason he didn't invite me is because I have epilepsy, which is true. At that point, I decided it was time to end things. I didn't end it on that phone call, but I was trying to talk to him about how bothered I was by his lack of communication and that he was only calling me to see if I could get him drugs. He said he couldn't stay on the phone to converse because he was having allergies and felt very caught off guard because he wasn't anticipating having a serious talk. The next day, I sent him a very cordial text explaining that it wasn't going to work out between us. He never responded. The next day, he texted me like everything was normal, and I reiterated what I had said earlier, but he acted as if I just felt insecure and needed reassurance from him about how much he liked me. So he misguidedly reassured me. I ended up blocking him. About a week later, I realized I was late on my period, and the concerning odor I had developed from sleeping with him unprotected was persisting. This odor began immediately after he finished inside me, for the first and only time, a couple weeks prior. There are other more graphic details I won't share here that all definitively indicate that he was the cause. I messaged him telling him my concerns, particularly about the pregnancy. For context, He has a pregnancy fetish and he begged me to let him finish inside me even though I'm not on birth control. Stupidly, I consented because I was on my period at the time and figured there was a low risk of me getting pregnant. Don't worry, I will never be that reckless and dumb again. After texting him, he assured me I wasn't pregnant and was generally being supportive. I took a test and it was invalid, so I made an appointment with a doctor to do an ultrasound and get tested for STIs. I also brought up the funny smell and he said he had just gotten tested at the local college, and that he was negative but a blood panel showed that he was deficit in certain nutrients which what was probably responsible for the smell. I asked to see a picture of his results. He refused. He said he would only show me if I promised to see him. He said I was making him uncomfortable and projecting my own issues onto him. He said he couldn't believe that I would just throw him away and everything we had like he was nothing and insinuate that he was being malicious. I told him that he was holding my peace of mind hostage just for the sake of pettiness. This text exchange went on for a while and he never sent me a picture of his results. I went to the doctor and was negative for everything including pregnancy, thank God, but need a medical grade douche to get rid of his rancid smelling sem****n. However, I did tell him I was pregnant and was still deciding whether to terminate the pregnancy or carry the fetus to term. He's been freaking out and asking to see the paperwork, but I told him the same thing he told me about his STD results. I'm not planning to keep up this ruse for long. Just for a few more days so he can experience the same anxiety I experienced. In this situation? Edit. Thank you to all who have read and commented. I wanted to address some points which I've noticed have been a theme. First, I have not seen this person in over a month. Second, this has been a major wake-up call and I realize how idiotic and reckless it is to practice unprotected sex. Third, I decided prior to this post to take some time off from dating. And fourth, I am in therapy to address my trauma, depression, and relationship instability. Again, I appreciate the feedback. Edit 2. I only told him this late last night. TW Edit 3. I've been essayed a couple times. I consented and he is in no way responsible for how my trauma manifests. At the same time, when I feel pressured I tend to give in to avoid being essayed another time. Again, this isn't his fault. Major update. He texted me saying he's not responsible because it's my body. He said he just wants to see me and doesn't understand why I won't see him. He said he would like to see me today but only if I'm not rude because that's like not his vibe. I told him to take a shower and stop asking girls to beg for his sperm during sex because it's weird. He's blocked. Wibta to not give my ex a chance? Update. I, 21F, just ended a relationship with my ex, M24, a few months ago. To this day he keeps messaging me. Eve blocked him on everything but Discord and I forgot to do so because I rarely open it. It's going to be all over the place, so forgive me if it's a messy and very long post ahead. For some context, Harry, fake name of X, and I met a year ago. We hit off really quickly, which is why I think we didn't work out because of how quick we got together. We were dating basically after less than 2 months of knowing each other. I know it was very quick and I deeply regret it. Anyway, when we met, just before we became friends, he was a bubbly person, someone who smiled a lot and he was nice. When we got together, the first month was good. We basically did what normal couples did. But that didn't last long. He told me that he had BPD, borderline personality disorder, and he has issues with abandonment and all that other stuff. This information is important for what's to come. After that first month, mind you guys, I was head over heels with this guy. He started ignoring, neglecting me. He was working multiple jobs, 2 of which are online, and I understood the stress he might be feeling. When I saw him at work, he was less smiley, he didn't smile, he was always irritated. Basically, he was having a rough time. I made sure to let him know that I was there and stuff. When I said he was ignoring me, he really was, and he wasn't responding to my messages. He didn't want to call at all. Even at night he didn't message me. I'd invite him out, but his excuse wow's always be, I'm lazy. During that time I was real happy to take him around because I recently got my license and I was RL happy. He doesn't have a license, so I was the one driving most of the time. I confronted him one time and he completely blew up. He got so mad saying he isn't like other people, he's busier than normal, and basically just telling me I'm immature for expecting so much from him. Which pissed me off naturally because we barely saw each other. He wouldn't go out with me and he couldn't even message. I understand his stress and his schedule, but to me what is, hey, I'm sorry he'll be busy today and he'll be busy till night and won't be able to message. Or something along those lines, because that's the bare minimum he owed me, and he said I was expecting too much from him. This continued for 3 months, y'all. 3 months we barely talked, we barely called, we saw each other maybe 3 times a week, even then it was at work and we were working together. At one point I decided to not message him at all to see if he would even message. It took him 3 days to message me. Not one hello or one call between those 3 days. I felt something in me fade. I was heartbroken, I was crying myself to sleep for months. And y'all, to add to his busy life, he played games when he isn't working. Times I came over he always played games. So after his work he wouldn't text, he'd game and not reach out. I was disassociating myself unconsciously. There was also this one incident. He admitted to not find me pretty and he said that his feelings were fading because he didn't find me attractive anymore. I cried for days after that. I was so insecure and self-conscious, I felt so ugly. I didn't leave. I stayed, but something inside me was letting go. A lot more things happened that I cannot detail here because it is basically the same or similar to before. All these happened within that 3 months, but after a while I stopped reaching out. After 3 months, he miraculously started making it up to me. Suddenly he was the one asking us to go out, eat out, basically do what we didn't when we first started dating. And I was absolutely shocked. Because I was so used to being given nothing, then suddenly this. My brain and heart was so used to not caring, suddenly this. This is where I admit I have wronged him, but I never actually recovered from what happened. For so long he gave me nothing, and nothing could bring me back to the love I had for him. Naturally, during those 3 months, I unattached myself from him. I started treating him the same. No texts until night, maybe until the next day, and it went on and on. There was a time where we were doing good, seeing each other every day, going out for dinner, properly being a couple again. But my feelings were nothing compared to how it was when we first started dating. By this time, we had been dating for 5 or 6 months, I think. Pardon me because I lost track. I had no reason to keep in track of when we got together because he didn't make the effort to talk to me anyway. I was present, but I just couldn't bring the love back. Fast forward to December or late November, I broke up with him for the first time. We talked about it on chat, which is a bad idea, and he tried to off himself. Which brings us back to his BPD. Anyway, we talked and I agreed to give him another chance. The reason for the breakup was because, for one, I didn't know if I could ever love him the same, but I was patient with myself. And two, it was because he got mad over the littlest things and I hated it. He reacted poorly to everything, he kept swearing, and his anger just wasn't managed. He spoke solely out of his anger and thinks that there are no consequences to his words. When I gave him a chance, we returned to normal-ish. Not really, because I still didn't have the same love back. Anyway, I had so many times where I nearly broke it off again, but this holds the medal for it. I was out one day with my siblings and we were at the city. I mentioned that he didn't have a license and I thought that instead of him taking the bus home, he'll just pick him up since I was around the area anyway. So we waited at a McDonald's and he was inside. And my siblings were hungry, so I said we were going to go drive through for a moment and to wait. I couldn't go on my phone because I was driving, and while waiting for our food I didn't pick my phone up because I didn't think much of it. When we left the drive-through, I told my bro to check my phone and he blew up my phone, y'all. This dude blew up my phone saying I left him and stuff, and I was frustrated because I couldn't say anything because I specifically told him we were going drive-through and I was driving and wasn't parked and I can't just stop to message back. He said nasty things on messages and I was growing irritated while driving. I eventually parked and he started giving me bullshit like, just fucking leave. What's the point of picking me up anyway if you're not gonna be here? Just leave, I'm gonna fucking off myself. And so I did. I fucking left like he told me to. And guess what, y'all? The shit show ain't done because he ain't done being mad, cause guess who got mad when I left? The MF who else? He mad cause I left cause he told me to. I ain't dealing with his BS, and I was so damn close to ending things permanently. We then talked again and he said he ended up waiting outside after he told me to fucking leave. I said that all his words have consequences and he can't just say things out of anger and not think of the consequences of it. Anyway, fast forward to late March. I broke up either way him for the second time, SND. This time it was official. I obviously had to cry so much about it before I did. I realized that I really couldn't love him the way I did, but I tried to bring it back. But even then, I stopped and slowly unattaching myself again to him. If anything, I stopped feeling anything for him. I admit during this time, I hadn't been the nicest and started resenting him, and it was because I felt so trapped. I didn't think leaving was an option because of his BPD, and I was afraid of what we might do to himself if we separated. It took a while for him to process it, and yeah. I offered to stay as friends for as long as he needs, and he just blocks me to his own accord, and that Basically, I didn't block him or anything. But shortly after, he started involving my family and I was beyond pissed. He started involving my brother in the drama and I was just so done with it. I told him to back off because this is between me and him and it just got messy after that. He started telling me staying friends was an insult to what we had and other bullshit and basically telling me I didn't even try or I left because I stopped feeling the spark and more stuff and I was just fed up. I constructed a paragraph literally breaking down all his accusations of me leaving because I stopped feeling the spark and our relationship being insulted if we remained friends and basically went off on him and I wasn't playing nice. He wanted me back and I said I didn't want him back. I told him what he wanted to hear. He created a war involving my brother and saying all this shit and I gave him a war. He kept talking about his BPD and his illness and what went on during the 3 months we didn't talk and I kept telling him if he's just going to keep blaming his BPD for his actions because I'm not having it anymore. I'm sick of listening to the same thing every time. I treated him the same to how he treated me, yes. I did and I'm not proud of that and that's why I wanted to break up. And I did. So it's still a messy story and I still may be missing details but I deck anymore and this most likely will be just a random rant but I just needed to let it out somewhere. Really sorry for the very long post and to those who will take the time to read and give me advice, thanks so much. If not, that's fine too and you guys have lovely rest of your day/night. I have no real idea on how to update posts or if you guys will be notified, but a really big thank you to those who took time out of their lives to read this very, very long posts. The advice and the validation is very relieving to me. I just want to say that I am no saint during the relationship either. Like I said, I had given him the same treatment he gave me and I did it to him longer not because of petty reasons or revenge, but simply because I wanted to take things very, very slowly and I wanted to be patient with myself. It turns out when you lose the love for someone, it just doesn't go back easily, or ever, and that's what happened to us. But I always have been faithful and I never seeked attention from someone else. He hasn't always been toxic, so to say, and we had moments I will cherish forever. He isn't the toxic person he was when we were together right now, and I'm sorry not to say that on the original post, but he's more calm. But it took me leaving for him to make a change. He kept saying sorry, he kept saying this and that without actions, and I just got fed up. Now he's begging for another chance. I have blocked him everywhere and I have made my peace with the whole thing. Thank you guys so much. You guys are so kind. My ex is trying to force communication. Me, 38M, had an altercation with my girlfriend, 42F, 2 weeks ago, and I still don't want to talk to her, until she promises and understands what she did to me. We live apart and have been together for soon 2 years. It all started when she woke me up at 8 a.m. through a phone call. I admit I could have been a bit snappy. But who isn't when they are woken up like that? She needed to know if we could rearrange plans. And the reason she called so early is because it was time-sensitive, which it was not. She's not usually calling in the mornings, but she could have sent me a message. She doesn't always have to include me in decisions. Anyhow, the call ended fast, about 30 seconds, and I went to sleep again. At 3 p.m., she called, woke me up again, and was confrontational about the fact that I was being snappy, told me she's not my mom, and demanded I tell her how sorry I am. I was just being pissed about the fact her phone call in the morning had made me sleep all day, and just couldn't take it. So I might have snapped a bit and told her some stuff I shouldn't have. I don't remember exactly what. Anyhow, it ended when I told her to leave me alone. She called me again about a half day later, at a late time. I felt she was trying to force things, so I clicked her. I kinda snapped and called her a psycho, etc. After that, she kept calling while simultaneously writing texts trying to force me to apologize, saying I was emotionally abusing her, pleading I should stop silent treatment, etc., and I kept clicking. I know she gets super anxious when I just leave during an argument, but that's not my problem. If I'm pissed, I should not have to care or think about her needs. Perhaps she needs to learn to not act like that so I can have space to cool down. She's done this before, and have been better for a long time now. But it's like she's possessed and it's creeping me out and she should have never even once done that. She kept pushing for like 5 days. Her behavior made me spiral into badmouthing her, eating all her ADHD medications. Is she trying to kill me? Breaking up with her kept me from not wanting to talk to her. She still doesn't understand it was her behavior that led me into that. After that, she chilled down. But those 5 days was really enough. But now 2 weeks later, she still don't get it, and is still trying to make me apologize and mend things. She's truly unhinged for getting that anxious when I just signal I want to be left alone. She sent me one voice memo crying and pleading, like a stalker. Trying to make me feel sorry for just wanting space until she gets it? Like it's me who has done anything wrong, or at least like I'm acting worse than her. She keeps insisting that she has been as bad as me. I think it's a way to soften her wrongdoings and it's very manipulative. She needs to truly understand her part before I even consider to forget her. I really don't want that kind of crazy in my life. So only way I'm speaking to her ever again is if she admits what she has done and promise convincingly she will never do it again. I do love her, but at this point I am too scared to have anything to do with her. So, yeah. Am I in the wrong or is she? Should I report my boss to her boss and HR? Hey everyone, I'm hoping to get some perspective on a situation at work that's been eating at me for a while now. I've been losing sleep over it, and my brain feels fried, so please bear with me if this is a bit jumbled. I'll try to lay it all out clearly because I want to make sure I'm not overreacting or about to step on any toes unnecessarily. I'm a 25-year-old guy, and I've been working at Amazon for just over 4 years. In that time, I've been lucky enough to work in 4 different warehouses, so I have a pretty good understanding of how things operate there and what good management looks like. Honestly, despite the common hatred people have about Amazon's working conditions, I actually love working there. It suits me well, and I've built up decent experience and relationships along the way. My direct boss, let's call her Sarah, not her real name, has been driving me nuts. Sarah is an external college hire who's been with the company for just about a year. From what I know, this is her first job out of college, so she's really green when it comes to managing a warehouse team. And the issues have been piling up ever since she started. Here's the kicker. Sarah is a salaried manager, whereas I'm hourly. That dynamic matters because she doesn't have the same clock-in/clock-out constraints I do, but her schedule is all over the place, and it's seriously affecting how the team runs. Supposedly, Sarah's schedule is Wednesday to Saturday, mid-shift, something like 8 or 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. But in reality, she shows up on her days off to work extra hours, and then when she's actually scheduled to be there, she calls in tired or just skips out entirely. For example, on a Monday and Tuesday, her days off, she'll come in and bust her ass. Then on Wednesday, when she's meant to be present and leading the team, she texts or calls to say, "I'm too tired today, I just can't deal with it." So the team is left without proper management on days she's supposed to be there because she burned out on her off days. Even more confusing is her working hours. Sarah claims to start working from home as early as 5 or 6 a.m., but then shows up in person around 8 or 9. When I come on at 1 p.m., she'll be ready to leave early, saying things like, "I've been working since 5 a.m., and I'm just so tired. I think I'll leave at 2 or 3 p.m. I'll have my phone on me, so call me if you need anything." That means there's effectively no salaried manager present for mid-afternoon until I finish at 11:30 p.m. or midnight. And then there's the whole "I'm on my monthly, I just can't deal with anything or anyone today" excuse, where she'll leave early again, expecting the team to somehow manage without her. While I get that everyone has bad days, this has become a pattern, not an exception. Sarah's lack of presence has severely damaged her credibility with the people she manages directly. Everyone has lost trust in her. People don't approach her with problems because she tends to handle issues by talking to the person for maybe 3 days to see if they change. Usually, nothing changes, and no follow-up action is taken. This leaves me in a weird spot. I'm technically an hourly manager, which means I have some authority but not the full managerial powers that Sarah has as a salaried manager. When her direct reports come to me with complaints or issues, I have to tell them to either go to Sarah, HR, or Sarah's boss because I can't really do much beyond basic supervision. The worst part? None of the serious complaints, whether it's about insubordination, unsafe working conditions, or even sexual harassment, seem to get addressed. No one is getting written up or held accountable, which is incredibly frustrating. The way Sarah interacts with me, especially during my monthly performance reviews, is discouraging. Almost all my topics are marked as intermediate, which basically means she thinks I sort of understand things but need guidance. But when I ask her what exactly I need to improve or how I can get better, she has no concrete feedback. It's always vague, like, "Let's just push out this new training." It's confusing and demotivating because I want to grow and learn, but she's not giving me the tools or support to do so. Off-the-clock issues. Here's where the hourly versus salaried thing really bugs me. Sarah frequently calls or texts me during my days off or outside of my scheduled shifts, expecting immediate responses. She'll call me and say things like, "Please call me when you can, it's an emergency," and when I don't answer, she texts again. I don't respond because, frankly, if there's a real emergency, she should leave a voicemail or use the proper work communication channels, not just keep pestering me. When I come in on my next scheduled day and ask her boss about it, the emergency usually turns out to be nothing important. I've reached a point where I'm seriously considering documenting everything. I want to start keeping a detailed record of Sarah's schedule inconsistencies, her absences, her management style, or lack thereof, how she handles complaints, and her behavior toward me and the team. My plan would be to compile all this info and present it to her boss and HR to make sure they're fully aware of the ongoing issues. I feel like this could finally get something done because, right now, nothing changes. But here's the dilemma. Wibta, would I be the asshole for documenting all this and escalating it? Is this the right way to go about it, or should I try to confront Sarah first or give her more time to improve? How should I present this info without sounding like I'm just complaining or trying to get her fired? And when is the right time to do it? I don't want to come across as a snitch or cause unnecessary drama, but at the same time, I can't keep working like this. I genuinely want the team and the warehouse to succeed. I want to do my job well, and I want to work in an environment where people are supported and managed properly. Sarah's current approach is making that impossible. If I don't act soon, I'm worried things will only get worse, and employees will keep feeling unheard and unsafe. So, if you've ever been in a similar situation or have experience with management gone wrong, I'd love to hear your advice. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Thanks for sticking with me through this long post. I really appreciate any feedback or perspective.